Hi, I'm Sue Stockdale, and welcome to the bonus episode of the Access to Inspiration podcast. We are changing the world one inspirational story at a time. We're excited today to launch our second impact report, to share the findings from the research we conducted with our listeners and guests to measure the impact that the podcast has in the world. So are we making a difference? Yes, we are, to both listeners and guests. And you can read the entire report by downloading it on our website at accesstoinspiration.org. Here are a couple of thoughts from what our listeners had to say.
What I love most about the Access to Inspiration podcast is the guests. They're a diverse range of people from different backgrounds who make huge impact. Their chats with Sue are pure gold. It was great reading that the listener base shot up by 13% in the impact report. So I'm not alone in loving this audio gem.
And listener Evelyn had this to say about how she was impacted by 2 episodes in particular.
So what I love most about the Access to Inspiration podcast is that you can think that the people that you're going to listen to have very little in common with you and then find like hidden gems in there. So I have 2 episodes that I really, really loved and stand out for me. And one is episode 100 with Simeon Wood, who's a musician, but in his describing how he wants to capture people that he meets and relationships that he has through his music. I love the idea of capturing what brings you alive through your own creativity, and that really resonated with me. And the other one is episode 111 with Paulo Savaget and his sort of cross-pollination, his interdisciplinarian way of looking at things and how that actually gives him a unique perspective to life. And I could really relate to that. And sometimes in a world of specificists, I don't know if that's a word, but people that are experts in something, I can feel strange when I'm bringing my polymath self out. And so it was very inspirational and encouraging. I also love that Clive and Sue have the impact report, and I see the importance of that for 2 reasons. I think one, it gives insight to me what's happening on the episodes and how their podcast is growing, but it also speaks to me of the reverence with which Sue and Clive live according to their own values and how they really try to bring that out, and they're keeping themselves accountable, and that I find inspiring, and it wills me on to do the same, to be very discriminatory with why am I doing what I'm doing? What are the values underlying it? And how can I live according to those values?
Moving on to hearing from our guests, who are all fascinating, diverse and inspiring. The impact report shows that 40% of our guests are first-time podcasters, and 80% of our guests being inspired to do more podcasting after being on our podcast. Even 9% want to go on and become a podcast host, so I better watch out. Well, you can read the entire report on our website, but don't just take my word for it. Listen to what some of our guests have to say.
Hi, it's Kevin Chapman here. Just been reading the impact report on the Access to Inspiration podcast series. And it's such an enjoyable thing to read because my own experience of recording a podcast was great for 2 reasons. Firstly, isn't it amazing how much of our own lives are actually quite interesting when we revisit them and portray them to other people? I think we forget how we've all lived a life and how we can inspire ourselves from recalling and retelling and revisiting our own lives. And the second piece there is, the word diversity really strikes me. You see that across all of the podcasts where people perhaps who aren't usually put on a pedestal to tell their stories are telling stories from different countries, different backgrounds with different interests, and just showing us that you don't need to be a guru, you don't need to be an author or an influencer to be able to inspire other people or to inspire ourselves. That's absolutely magical and absolutely transformational.
And our guest, Pierre Heistein, believes he has become part of a movement for positive change.
I think what really stood out for me was the feeling of, there's almost an implicit community that's created through Access to Inspiration. As a podcast guest, I feel that I'm sort of part of this group of previous speakers, and I've been able to reach out to a couple. They're all very interesting people for a variety of different reasons and life stories, but all have something in common. And it's been really amazing to be able to reach out to some of them and build that network and to have a valuable conversation, but also some really interesting work and project opportunities have come out of that. And I think that's really reflected by the report, a sense of a almost a movement for positive change, but not in an explicit way, just in a way of interesting people doing really interesting things, all brought together by commonality for trying to just make the world a little bit of a better place together. And so even though I haven't met most of them, I feel part of that.
So please take a few minutes to have a read of the Impact Report and find out how we're making a difference. I'd like to thank co-founder Clive Steeper, as well as Tanatswa Gwande, Matthias de Escura and Elliot Rushton, the team behind the scenes, without whom none of this would have been accomplished. Well, you can find a transcription for this and all our other episodes on our website, accesstoinspiration.org. And if you'd like to support us and show your appreciation of our efforts, then do buy us a coffee. That's making a small donation to give us some encouragement. You'll find the link on the show notes. We'll be back soon with another series. In the meantime, have a listen to some of those episodes in our back catalogue. And you can connect with us and follow us on social media, or tell someone else about the podcast and the Impact Report, and you'll be part of our ripple effect of change. I look forward to connecting with you again soon.